So if someone really has tarsal tunnel syndrome, a local compression and irritation of the tibial nerve sufficient to cause localized pain and or numbness in the distribution of the tibial nerve, commonly like the plantar surface, the plantar nerves that come off of it, then we've got a nerve compression irritation syndrome centered in here. And for that, oh, sorry, this chair's been mobilized. It's losing its leg. Just a sec. So what we need to do is we need to grade the irritability of the situation. So you do your dorsiflexion and eversion test. If that's causing tingling and numbness, like right away, fabulous, Bob's your uncle. I'm going to move this so I don't cut my head off. That's great. We know that this is an interface, especially with no proximal tension or compression. We know this is an interface that's really significant. And it's sufficient when there's tension of the nerve and then compression through the flexor retinaculum to change conduction. So we know we got the right location. The question is, how irritable is it? So if I can create the tingling and numbness like that, but I let go of it, and the tingling and numbness goes away right away, it's not very irritable. I can cause conduction problems, but they don't thrum through her, in this like ongoing way. So when that's the case, there's a problem with the neurobiomechanics. The nerve can't slide and glide and compress without having conduction problems. But physiologically, in terms of either local inflammation or central sensitization in our nervous system, not so bad. So that's someone who's not irritable. They express their symptoms strongly, but they're not irritable. So someone like that, it's a mechanical problem that has a nerve conduction effect. So a mechanical solution is probably going to be fabulous. So with that, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have an effect upon the relationship between the flexor retinaculum running this way and the nerve running this way. So in that situation, you can hold on to the attachment of the flexor retinaculum on the calcaneus, and you can be quite firm with that as you unglue it in a fascial technique kind of way. The nerve is much closer to the malleolus, so I know I'm far away from the nerve. My communication with my client is, please tell me if you feel any tingling or numbness when I'm doing this, or any pain, but especially tingling and numbness. So she's not feeling tingling or numbness. What do you feel, Kaya, when I do this?
It's tender.
Yeah, it's tender. So this is a connective tissue mobilizing thing. I'm actually stretching this bracelet of tissue here. I can get away with that. I could just do, that's it, maybe another 15, 20 seconds. I've released the attachment of the retinaculum significantly on the calcaneus. I repeat, I have to take her further before I create symptoms. That's great. And the symptoms are still non-irritable. Then I'll do the next thing. The next thing that I might want to do is I want to clean off the attachment of the retinaculum on the malleolus. This, you have to be careful because I'm on the retinaculum here, but I'm on the nerve there. See the retinaculum there, nerve there. It's like 2 millimeters between heaven and hell. So again, you need to check in. Do you feel anything nervy when I'm doing this?
No.
No. But you feel something nervy when I go like that?
A little bit.
A little bit. So you can identify the nerve if you want with a gentle provocation, and then you just go, okay, it's right there, and I'm cleaning off the tissue. Here's our nerve. We're not on it. We're just cleaning off the retinaculum just on the side of it. So you release that part of the retinaculum. So now the bracelet is getting decompressed. So you're doing like a pseudo-surgical release of the retinaculum without compressing or challenging the nerve at all. You haven't made the retinaculum tight by doing this and then you do stuff. No, the nerve is going to get grumpy for that. The next thing you might want to do is you feel the nerve coming in here, and then you hold on to the two margins of the retinaculum, on the top side and the down side, and then you pull the retinaculum off the nerve. And with that, I usually do a little bit of dorsiflexion. Because as I dorsiflex and evert, the retinaculum tenses, and I've got a better grip on it, so I can pull it off the nerve. Again, any tingling or numbness? No. If my handling is off, just that much, just 2 or 3 millimeters, I'm right on the nerve there. So I'm pulling the retinaculum off the nerve. If I'm doing great with that, and I need to go further because we're still getting symptoms, then I've been mobilizing the retinaculum, but the nerve is free to move around. Haha! So, like let's say here's the nerve. It runs deep to her soleus, right? And then it comes down here with Tom, Dick, and Harry. So I'm pulling the retinaculum off, but there's a certain amount of slack to it. What I really want to do at a certain point is I want to pull the nerve this way, or at least anchor it, and then pull the retinaculum off. So I can do that just with my hand. I can hold it softly with my thumb and pull, or I can use orthopedic tension. So I would go further, but I don't want to go off camera here. So, and obviously I wouldn't be kneeling on a table. So where am I here? Okay, so I tension the nerve sufficiently that then when I pull off the retinaculum, the nerve is actually wanting to stay in place. And there's no end to this stuff. This is going to be more provocative when I do the orthopedic thing this way. If I'm hanging out here and I hold on to the retinaculum and I just kind of massage and I'm working the retinaculum off the nerve, that's a much gentler thing than this, orthopedic thing. So now we've got the nerve, at least at the entrance to the retinaculum, it's feeling pretty fabulous and it's free to glide. The retinaculum is quite broad, It's probably like the breadth of my thumb or so. And you want to make sure that the entire boulevard that the nerve is traveling underneath the retinaculum is free. This is the tricky one. Or this could be a tricky manipulation. You go right on the nerve, and you feel where it's going to the retinaculum, and you go lightly and you score the retinaculum along the track of the nerve. Tingling or numbness?
No.
Fabulous. So I'm scoring the retinaculum right along the course of the nerve. Again, sort of pseudo-surgical release. I can get away with this now because I've decompressed the retinaculum, the nerve is gliding nicely, so it's not very irritable. If I do too much of this, if I'm too heavy-handed, then it's going to start being locally sore, or she's going to get conduction problems. That's why I need to be checking in all the time. So if she starts getting conduction problems, I back off, and if it doesn't settle down, then I'm going to have to address this inflammation here, and I do that by cradling my hand over the area. Which brings us to the category of techniques you would use if, when you did the dorsiflexion and eversion. Do you want to drink of water?
I think
Yeah.
it's water. See what I did.
We're taking a break for a second.
Thank you.
Hats off. Kaya had no idea, right, when she agreed to this, what she was signing up for.
Quite interesting.
Okay, keep breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important that when you're doing this, the person's still breathing and swallowing. Those are like essential things. Okay, so if you dorsiflex and evert them, you create the symptoms. So it's like, okay, what did you feel, tingling and numbness? Where did you feel it? Right here. And how long did it take to go away? It's actually not going away. You got an irritable situation. Or even if you create symptoms and it takes 2 or 3 seconds to abate, that's getting irritable, and you start doing these direct. Now it's not a neurobiomechanical issue, it's a neurophysiological issue. The physiological response of the nerve is aberrated. So there's either local inflammation and or, sorry, I'm going to sneeze now. Oh my goodness. It's not my office, where's the Kleenex? Ah. Excuse me. So when you've got a neurophysiological aberration, you either got local swelling here, or her central nervous system has got a rut in it, either in her cord or further up, in her sensory cortex. Somewhere upstairs, there's a bit of a rut there, so that sensation activates a cascade of others, or stimulus creates this whole cascade of sensation. So we've got local inflammation, central excitation, or both. So I'm actually doing more and more work around the phenomenon of central sensitization, but I don't have it in a teachable form, so we're just going to pass on that for now. And we're going to assume, especially since you were scoring her here, you were doing stuff, and you created this irritable response. So then you need to do your fluid dynamic techniques, where you're just very gently milking the nerve. If that's not getting you there, then you have to find some local environment that's proximal along the nerve where there's orthopedic compression, that you can release that interface, maybe like, deep inner calf there, if you can find like, oh yeah, it's really glued there. If you can mobilize that tissue without causing any irritation here, then that's going to create a situation where this will calm down. That's tonight's take on tarsal tunnel syndrome in terms of irritable and non-irritable. How you doing, Ryan? You got some tea going on there?
What?
You getting some tea there?
Yep.
Trying to make the evening interesting? I know. Mike, can you invert the foot to take the tension off the nerve during treatment to avoid sensitizing issue while treating the retinaculum? So let's say, so we're still in the tarsal tunnel situation, then we'll go over to Morton's neuroma. I don't know about you guys, but I'm having a ball. So, thanks for coming out. So let's say you're working in here and it's getting grumpy. So if you invert the person, then you're slackening the flexor retinaculum. So this is just like when you've got carpal tunnel syndrome. Sometimes you can get some help for that when you actually bow the tunnel a little bit. Some people will do things like you hold on to the middle fingers and you pull them, things like that. So when you invert her, the flexor retinaculum is going to, there's less, there's slack in it. That's helpful. If they're grumpy and irritable, I would invert them and then introduce my thenar eminence in that valley that's created there between the malleolus and the calcaneus. And then I invert them into the heel of my hand. Yeah. And then I let them come out of that into neutral. And then I invert them into the heel of my hand. So it looks like a Ryan Hoyme thing. Ryan's going to show us all these fabulous kind of manipulations like this. So, but it's really with a careful concentration on the region here. And what you're after is actually just the fluid. Like, I'm moving my plantar's foot like this, and I've got my thenar eminence in there. But il n'y a pas de compression, as the French would say. There's no compression. Man, I'm just barely feeling her skin. So I'm creating an environment where I'm fluctuating hydraulic pressures above the flexor retinaculum. And then you carry on with that for a few minutes. And eventually the flexor retinaculum will kind of get juicy and you'll feel fluid moving within the tarsal tunnel. So that's a way to go. Another thing you can do is get a couple pillows, ramp them up. You want to be careful though, because the more you ramp them up, the more you tension the sciatic nerve. So you might want to ramp them up a bit and then flex the knee a tad. Okay, so maybe you get a couple pillows and you get something going, maybe some kind of angulation like that. For inflammation in the tunnel.